That's right. We're live on Facebook.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we
So
should get going.
one of the two. Yeah, let's go ahead. There we go.
Okay. Hello and welcome on this lovely Chicago Saturday morning. Again, I want to make an announcement that we may have run out of handouts, but this is the same QR code. So if you don't have a little paper square, you can still access all the information here with this QR code. It's just a PDF of our presentation, but all the links are live in it, so all the resources are still there. My name is Katie Mess.
I'm Angela McCuiston, and please raise a hand if you can't hear us.
Yes, can everyone hear us at the back of the room?
We'll talk louder.
Okay,
Got you.
Yes. All right, we will try to project. Awesome. Because we're probably going to have to stand away from the microphones for some of this. So we want to make sure everyone can hear us still. So yes, if you can't hear us, let us know. All right, so I'm going to come back to the first slide. So this is balance training for an unbalanced instrument. So as the title suggests, our theme today is balance, and specifically how that relates to physical fitness and flute playing, and how we can use targeted strength training to improve our flute playing and play without pain. So we're going to give you a lot of information. We're going to try to keep it straightforward, but we're going to also ask that you keep questions to the end so that we can kind of keep things moving efficiently and give you all the information we want to give you. Also want to give a little plug. We are members of the Performance Health Committee. Angela is actually our current chair. And there is a session this afternoon from 3 to 4 p.m. in the exhibit hall at the NFA committee booth. It's an open Q&A session. So that's another opportunity to come and talk to us or other members of the PhD who might be here. Raise your hand if you are. PhD members?
Nope.
Nobody's here today. We're probably all prepping for the workshop that's after this. Anyway, we have a lot of people with different areas of expertise. So it's a great time to come and ask us some questions then as well. 3 to 4 p.m. in the exhibit hall. All right, so we're just going to launch right in.
Quick caveat, this is the tip of the iceberg. There was so much information we had to cut out. So we can go a lot farther in this, and if you want us to go farther, please come see us, and we will. But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely. So we're going to start with just giving you a little bit of the scientific background that is basically the why of why we're giving the recommendations that we're getting. I'm going to cover that part, and then I'm going to turn it over to Angela, and she's going to do some hands-on stuff. And hopefully we have a little bit of room that we can spread out a little bit. You can try some of these things if you feel inclined. But to start with, the first concept that I want to bring to everybody's attention is this idea that muscles, and often groups of muscles, work in pairs around a given joint. So on opposing sides of the joint, we have groups of muscles that work in conjunction to move joints into whatever desired position you need. And this is because muscles can only pull in one direction. When we think about that, it's kind of obvious, but it's often something we don't really consider. So, for example, if I want to bend my wrist up from this, the muscles on the palm side of my forearm are going to shorten or contract to pull my wrist into that position. Now, if I want to unbend my wrist or extend my wrist back into that neutral position, the muscles on this side of my forearm are not going to push it out. Instead, the muscles on the backside are now going to shorten or contract to pull it back into that position. So they work in tandem to create movement, and this happens for every joint in our body. So when one joint becomes too tight or overly active, as we like to call it in the industry, fitness industry, then consequently the opposing side of that can become overly stretched out and weak in comparison. And when this happens, we call it a strength imbalance. We really want those muscle pairings to be fairly balanced in strength so that we can have optimal movement and optimal range of movement. So when they become imbalanced, we can lead to issues where the joints are not staying or can't return to an optimal position or a neutral position. And when that happens chronically, meaning all the time, that's where things like overuse, injuries, and pain can happen.
You mind if I jump in?
Yep.
So we've got right here, the site of pain is not always the source of pain. So real common one among flute players, who gets pain behind the shoulder blade right about here, right? This is not, don't stretch this. This is weak. It hurts because it's mad at you. It's weak. It's like, would you please stop going this way? Okay. So here's a little tip. The thing is, we're talking about opposing muscle imbalances, right? Opposing muscle groups. Your chest is probably the thing that's tight, and it's pulling you this way, causing the imbalance here. The weak muscle is usually the one that cries out for attention. The one that's tight, not always is going to be actually the problem. So if you've got an issue and you're looking at opposing muscle groups, that's where you want to find what the problem could be. So you want to stretch this and strengthen this, not the other way around. Okay.
So, as instrumentalists, we tend to spend a lot of time in the same positions, right? So for most instrumentalists, that means our arms are out in front of us. And for flute playing, we'll talk specifically about our position in a couple of slides. But that means that when we're staying in one position for hours and hours out of the day, every day of the week, every week out of the year, right? We have perfect conditions for this kind of imbalance to start happening. Yes, I see some people talking about computer. If you spend time on the computer all day occupationally, that also can contribute. So this is not just related to flute playing and musicians. This is also just like daily life stuff. But we're going to talk specifically about flute here. All right, so the last thing, because Angela just talked about the site of pain being the source of pain. So the other thing to kind of imagine about that is that statement, site of pain, meaning where it's hurting, versus is not always the source of pain, meaning what's causing the pain, can also mean something like, say I've got pain in my wrist. I like to use my wrist as an example, right? So a lot of flute players get some pain and soreness in our wrists, right? I certainly do. If I ice and stretch that, that might help initially, kind of relieve some of that initial discomfort. But if the problem, say, is further up in my shoulder, which is really common, that's not going to fix it long term. So it's important to sort of understand how things are connected. And that's what we're hoping to give you a little bit of an idea of today. So that last point here leads us into that is the body doesn't work in isolation. There's really no muscle or joint that is ever truly isolated in the body. It's really, really hard to do that. We need all kinds of special equipment and stuff like that to try to exercise something in a more isolated fashion. So that means that some muscles and joints are involved in flute playing and can affect how you're playing your flute in ways that might surprise you. So one example that I want to talk about here is the latissimus dorsi. Yeah, and that's a big word. A lot of times you'll just hear it referred to as the lats, right? So this muscle here, this is the lats. It's kind of hard to see the little tiny writing. Yes, it's on the back. And you can notice that it starts to work its way around to the side. And then if we come to this picture over here, this is the back of the shoulder blade. This little piece right here is that continuation of this muscle. And notice how it starts to come to the front. So it's a muscle that's largely on your back, but it works its way and attaches right here. Mm-hmm. So think about what would happen if this muscle gets overly tight and shortened. Right here, it's connecting here. So this shortens up. Think what happens to your shoulder as that happens. It starts to pull you down and forward. We're going to come back to that in a second, because really what we're covering today is mostly, like Angela said, the tip of the iceberg. We're really talking about the chest up today. There's more than half of the body to talk about there, but this is just a very common issue for flute players, so that's what we chose to focus on today. But this gives you a little taste about how the rest of the body is connected to this as well. We'll come back to that specific example a little later. But before we do, we need to do our due diligence.
Caveat.
We are rather knowledgeable, but we are not medical doctors. So it's really, really important to seek guidance from a medical provider when pain is present, especially if you are hurting and it is chronic and it's something that is new and you can't explain it. You really should get it checked out to make sure that, especially if you've had a previous injury, you have a pre-existing condition or something, we want to rule out if there isn't some other underlying cause that's causing your pain, because we want to help you. We don't want to make it worse. So we want to know what's going on before we step in. Mm-hmm. Our recommendations today are for educational purposes. We have to say that, right? And assume that an individual is otherwise healthy and without underlying conditions that would contraindicate physical activity. Contraindicate just means you shouldn't do it. Okay, but that's the legal lingo. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about flute playing asymmetry. So specifically, how is our instrument asymmetrical, right? So our traditional position means that the bulk of our instrument is to the right of the body, right? Off center, off balance, right? So the arms have to stay in front and toward the right. Mm-hmm. And also on this right side, we're supporting a lot of the weight of the instrument. It's not a very heavy instrument, but if you're playing some of the lower instruments, it can be. Yep. If you're playing some of the lower instruments, it certainly can be. And the longer you hold your arm out here, even if you're not supporting any weight, it starts to get tired after a while, right? So it's a long-term fatigue situation. So when we're talking about an asymmetrical position that is not ergonomic, meaning that it is a non-natural position that works with the way that our body is built and intended to move and function optimally, that's where we can lead to fatigue. And when we get tired or fatigued, we tend to compensate with our position, often subconsciously, and we're not aware that we're doing it. but we tend to change our position to compensate for the fact that we're tired over time. And when that happens, again, we can lead to chronic postural changes where we're in that position all the time and injury. And if we're in pain, we're not really playing our best, right? So that's how this all relates. Okay. So let's look a little bit specifically again, front to back imbalances. Now I'm using the anatomical names of muscles. It's less important that you remember the exact name of these muscles because I know that these terms are kind of a mouthful. It's more so that you remember the region that we're talking about. And if you happen to hear that word again, it's not the first time you're hearing it and you are a little bit familiar. You're not feeling like you're totally lost, right? But all right, so we've already established we spent a lot of time with our arms forward, right? So that means the chest is going to be tighter, the back is going to be weaker. So the muscles that we're looking at on the front of the body that are tight are the pectorals, or the pecs, and there's a larger one and a smaller one, the major and minor. So on the surface, this larger muscle right here, and look how big it is. It's all this is the pecs major, and then in this picture, it's as if we're looking underneath it. This is the pecs minor. Both of those tend to become really tight, and look at how they're connected, right? This is your arm and shoulder blade, so it's tight. Again, we're punching forward. Now, also, we tend to see the biceps for flute players get tight, the biceps on the front of the arm here, because again, if you think about what the biceps do when they shorten or contract, they bend your arm. We have to bend our arms to hold the flute out. So if we're staying in this position a long time, a lot of times we also see the biceps getting tight. Now, on the back here, we have this large triangular shaped muscle that's the trapezius or the traps. It's on both sides, but again, on this side, we're looking as if like an x-ray we're seeing underneath it. Those are the rhomboids. And if again, who hadn't had that pain in the shoulder blade?
So rhomboids.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
This right here, okay? So that's what we're looking at in terms of balances and the muscles and the regions you want to remember when we're having that front to back sort of strength and balance happening. Okay, now.
We've seen this.
You've seen this.
We've
right?
seen this. We've done this.
If you're a teacher of young children, especially, you may see people who play like this all the time. This is just sort of default how they go into the flute. So we can see that, we're all aware of that turtleneck. Oh, the turtleneck. And then, of course, as we get tired, we start to droop to the right. But look at the neck angle here with this, right? Look at how far. So talk about an imbalance, right? We have muscles on this side and muscles on this side. This is getting stretched. This is getting tight. Also, look at what happens in
Midline of the
torso
body.
and hip. If this is particularly extreme, right?
Right.
Everything starts to cock to the side, so the hips start to come up, the torso. Anyway, we often can do this without even thinking about it, right? So we get tired. And again, some of us may sort of default into this position and aren't even aware of it too. But we're going to talk about it as if it's fatigue related. So, focusing on the neck a little bit, what happens when we're moving our neck out of a neutral position? So, when we stretch our neck, who stretches your neck regularly? Yeah, we're all pretty aware that, you should stretch your neck, right? But a lot of times what we do is just let your ear fall to your shoulder and you stretch to the side. That's great. Keep doing that. But there are muscles on all three aspects, the front, the side, and the back. We want to make sure that we're paying attention to them too. So some kind of key ones to keep in mind is the sternocleidomastoid. That's a mouthful. We just call it the SEM. Yeah, as you can see, it starts right behind your ear here and attaches these two little bony bumps right below the base of your neck here. On either side, it attaches right there. It's a pretty large muscle for your neck, right?
Turns your head to the side and it flexes you forward.
As well.
Which, what do? Left, down, right? Anybody get headaches when you play? Could be this guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Headaches, TMJ stuff.
Yes, TMJ.
Yeah. And then on the sides here, there's scaling. So what we're stretching really on the
Little
side, they're kind
guys.
of buried underneath it, but there are these several little slips of muscle right here, those scalings. Those are often tight on a lot of people. So like I said, keep stretching that. And then on the back side, that big triangular muscle on the back, the trapezius, the upper portion of it is here in your neck, right here, to your shoulder. That also gets tight. And then underneath, you can't see it in this picture, but there's that little levator scapulae, elevates your shoulder blade.
The traps and levators work together to shrug your shoulders.
It's a smaller muscle underneath that, but it often gets tight. Rather painful for people.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So this puts the last couple slides together. So when we're talking about that turtleneck position, right, so on your computer or on our phone, oftentimes when this becomes a more chronic thing, we call this upper cross syndrome. The cross is referred to how the muscles are arranged or are situated in relation to each other. So the tight and weak are kind of in a diagonal relationship across the joint.
Weak.
Yeah. So, and then when we come forward, this is stretched out, this is crunched up, and then again, as we round forward with the shoulders, tight, weak. If you look here, I don't know how well you can see this in the back, but there is this green line that's showing what's like a neutral or a stacked position where we've got like ankles under knee, under hip, under shoulder, under ear. So everything is nice and in line in your spine. And then you start to slouch forward. You can see how far off of neutral we start to come, right? This may look like an exaggeration. It's not at all. I literally just went, okay, take the picture.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take much.
One thing, if you find yourself locking your knees a lot, that could be you, because then you get motion here, and then this has to offset that because your center of gravity is moved. The best way to figure out if this is you, have someone take a picture of you from the side, or just say, hey, are my ears over my shoulders? And if they're not, guess what? It's probably you.
Also to say, if you find that that's the case, you are not alone.
No.
It's super, super common, especially these days, more that we are on computers and phones and things like that. A lot of people, I would say, like the majority of people have some of this going on.
And have you ever heard of the thing where people say, bring your flute to your face, don't bring your face to your flute? If you find yourself doing this unconsciously or in your students, that can lead to this, which can lead to all kinds of numbness and tingling in the fingers, thoracic outlet syndrome. There it is.
So this is the last thing I'm going to talk about before I turn it over to Angela for some hands-on stuff. So I want to talk about how the shoulder region gets affected with some of these things. So excess tension in your shoulders can compress nerves and cause pain down your arms, is what she just said. And then the asymmetrical neck position can also start to contribute to this. So when we bring our left arm across the body, and especially for those of us who might do a lot more with marching band, or see students that work in marching band, right? And we feel like we have to keep our glute really parallel to our body. This can be more exaggerated, and we're crunching up the muscles and the musculature, the tissues here in the shoulder on the front side, as we bring that left arm across the body. Now look what happens on the right to keep it parallel. Look how far back my shoulder and elbow have to come past neutral. So here we have overly stretched. Here we have overly stretched. Neither are great. So this here, these yellow things are nerves. That particular bundle is called the brachial plexus. Again, the anatomical word, so it's important for you to remember that. But brachial means arm. Plexus just means network. So this is the arm network of nerves. This is also called the thoracic outlet. Thoracic means thorax, like your torso. So the reason that we mention that too is if anybody has ever been injured and someone has said you have thoracic outlet syndrome, this is what they're talking about. So this is a big bundle of nerves. So you see when we compress that, how much of this nerve system that we can be putting a lot of pressure on. And that serves all the way down to your fingertips, those nerves do. So if you're having compression here, you can be getting referred pain down your arm. And it can manifest in really strange ways. Angela and I both can tell you stories. We both have had issues with the thoracic outlet. It's also really common. So similarly, if you remember sort of this right here, these guys, those are the scalenes on the side of the neck again. So those nerves kind of come through those little slips of scalene muscle as it emerges out of your spinal cord. So if you are really tight over here and these are really tight, that's also compressing those nerves. So those are just a few things, well, a lot of things, but some little tidbits to keep in mind in terms of why we're going to make these recommendations for these stretches and exercises. So now I'm going to turn it over to Angela, who's going to walk you through that.
Cool. Okay. So these are some things that you can obviously do in your chair, right? When it comes to what to, yes, can you all hear me? Okay. When it comes to stretching and strengthening, I want you to think about which way we play the flute. We turn to the left and we bend to the right. What do you want to bet it feels weird to do this, right? So which direction do we need to stretch? Okay. So if we don't know, what I want you to do, if you want to try this, I want you to take your left hand, you can grab your chair or just pull your arm down away from your ear, okay? Look straight ahead at me. I guarantee you, half of you when we do this, are going to do this. That's not straight ahead. We're going to go this way, not this way. Do not look at the ceiling. Look straight at the person in front of you. Pull down and gently bring your ear towards your shoulder, very gently. Okay? I see a lot of chins going this direction. You're going straight over. And I'm going to show you the 3 different ways that you can stretch your neck muscles. If that feels tight, do this. If it doesn't, stop. There we go. Try the other side. You're going to pull down, pull straight over. You'll notice there's an imbalance. One side probably feels tighter than the other. To make the stretch a little bit more effective, as you're holding this, I want you to gently push your head into your hand about 10% of what you can do. For 3, 2, 1. Now relax. You should go farther every time you do that, okay? And relax. So
you're pushing against your hand.
Pushing against your hand, right. This is bringing pressure, then you're pushing back, etc. Caveat with any of these neck stretches, if this can be a really vulnerable area. If you've had whiplash, if you've had any kind of car accidents, if you have an unstable neck, if you are hypermobile, be careful with these. They don't feel good to everybody. And if they don't, just stop. It's totally fine, okay? So if we go scalenes, SCM, or scapula, you don't need to know what all those things are. We're just going to do this really easy. So your upper traps, what we just did, straight over. If you go up diagonally, like I told you not to do, that stretches the SCM like we just talked about. Right, yeah, exactly. So you're going to look up and diagonal, like put your hand above your eyebrow, right? Yeah. The left side should feel amazing. Yeah, right? Well, at least does for me. I might be imbalanced other than y'all. All right. And then the levators are on the back side. So you're going to look down at your right foot, right? So we've got, that's going to get this guy on the back of your neck, okay? Right. So those are the 3 neck stretches you can do. You want to be very gentle with these. None of these are really, really difficult. Okay, so that's how we stretched what's overactive. Again, if any of these stretches don't feel good, don't do them. And if it doesn't feel tight, don't stretch it. Okay? If something is not tight, don't stretch it. I'm going to say it again. If it's not tight, don't stretch it. You see people recommending stretches all the time, but if you don't feel anything, you don't need it. Move on, right? So, because we don't want to stretch something that's weak, right? So now that we've stretched what's tight, assumingly, we're going to strengthen it. Chin tucks, if you look attractive doing this, you're doing it wrong. This is a really ugly move. I want to see a bunch of really nasty double chins here, okay? Give me your best, Jabba the Hutt. Seriously, right? So a chin tuck, you're going to tuck your chin down slightly and bring it back. Like I think of, like your jawline is like on a railroad. Down, back. Remember we said about ears over the shoulders? That's a chin tuck. And she's doing it here. You can do it on the ground. You can put resistance behind you. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite ways to do this. I've got a 70-year-old client. She loves to do these in the car because she spends all her day either playing guitar or at a soundboard. Guess what she looks like? So she can't remember to do anything, which is why she comes to see me. But seriously, so what she does, she's very proud to let me know that she does these in the car all day long. That's her favorite thing. So if you want to make them more difficult, you guys seen TheraBands? Right. You put one of these, and I know a lot of us have these from physical therapy, and I brought a whole box, and guess where they are? In my hotel room. Sorry. So if anybody wants one, text me. My information's out there. It's on my website. Text me, and I will bring you one. I got a box. Let's get rid of them. So what you do with this? Do you want to do this? She's my guinea pig.
She's gonna.
Right. So I want you to put it right around the top of your head, like a headband, right above your ears. You pull out to change your resistance, and then you go back. Okay, so that's your resisted chin tuck. But this is where it gets interesting. What I want you to do, bring it out to the left. So face them. Bring it out to the left. Now turn your head to the right. It's going to feel a lot. We can go home now. That was amazing. Okay, so what you're going to find, I want you to try it. Go to the right and tell me if that feels different.
Very.
Right, because it's probably easy, right? Because what do we do?
It's harder for me, but this is we talked about this. Everybody's built a little differently too. So like Angela's issues have become more on the left side. Mine have been on the right.
So they can change.
Of that. It can change. So
right.
So for me, turning my head this way when I'm pulling this way is harder, but for her that might be the opposite.
Yeah. So what you're trying to do is provide that resistance to the weak side, and just try both and see what works. Okay. So moving on. That's how you do your neck. And, oh, here, screw this. What? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, if you don't have a TheraBand, you can use isometrics. Just use your hand. So all you're going to do is you're going to chin tuck back. I want to see a lot of double chins in here. Nice. All right, so then you're going to turn your head to the right. Put your hand just above your temple. Please don't push into your temple. Right above, and then turn it to the right. You should feel some resistance on this side.
Try to keep push against your hand, like not letting it
right.
turn that way.
Don't let your head turn. Okay, now try the other side. So we're going to chin tuck. Press to the left. Do you notice a difference?
Pushing against your hand.
Right. So it's not as good as using a TheraBand, but if you don't have anything, that's one way you can do it. Okay, next. My favorite. Okay, so we were talking about chest and the rhomboids, right? Who are my people who have pain behind the shoulder blade again? Yes, all of us, right? So, okay, so this is something I do backstage constantly. I do it before workouts because the chest muscles pull you forward. They do this. What do we do all day long? This, 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 this. What do we do back here? Unless you're reaching something in the back of the car, nothing. We don't go back here at all, right? Y'all, we've been here, yeah? You can't reach it. Like, should pull over. I just outed myself, didn't I? So what you're gonna do with this, ideally, you need like a doorway instead of just a wall. So you have something to push your hand against. Let's do this. She's my doorway. Okay, so you're gonna see the back of her and the front of me. The reason this is important, I want you to squeeze your shoulder blade toward, not this side, squeeze your shoulder blade towards your spine, okay? So what we're doing is we're activating the muscle that's weak. This is not a passive thing. If you've seen the doorway stretch from PT, that's very passive. It's gonna put a lot of stress on the shoulder joint. We don't want that. We wanna keep it stable and strong. So you're gonna squeeze your shoulder blade towards your spine, like that way, right? Squeeze in. Now, twist away from me. That's it. That's all it is. And you'll get a really lovely stretch, right? If you don't feel much, go up a little higher. And then that gets pec minor down here. Squeeze, twist. Don't lock your knees. I know you're all locking your knees because everybody does, right? And relax. Oh, that's nice. Oh, and hold for 30 seconds, okay? That's my favorite.
You can do it a couple times.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
Right. So that's how you stretch it. So once we've stretched what's over tight, we want to strengthen what's weak. So what's on the weak side? These dudes. Fun fact, my third playing related injury, I tore that. That's also called a muscle strain, FYI. Tore just sounds, more dramatic. So I like to say that, and people go, oh, what did you do? It's like, I play the flute.
Worked out or even just done a little bit more lifting than you normally do, even if you're just moving or something, and the next day you felt kind of sore in unexpected places. Yeah. So the soreness
micro tears
are micro tears.
Yeah.
And
it's not a bad thing.
It's not really a bad
Mine
thing.
was.
We heard feel the burn, all that kind of stuff. We do want a little bit of that when you're trying to strengthen things because it's that tearing, those micro tearing of those fibers that causes your body to go, oh, I should get stronger.
Right.
So it builds that muscle a little bit, but when it becomes a bigger portion of those fibers are torn, that's when it becomes a strain and it becomes not functional. Yeah.
Can you go to the next one? I'm hoping it's yeah, there it is. Okay. So what happened was, what happened is I had my left arm in front of my body for 20 years, right? Who can relate to that? Right. Okay. So I am in the gym doing a dumbbell chest press. I have no idea what good form is. Good form is you want to brace your spine and then go. And I'm just like, woo, it's chest day because it's Monday and I'm just going to be buff. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I lifted up and I felt a ouch, sharp. So I'm at Florida State, by the way, grad school for performance. I go to health services. He gives me muscle relaxers and tells me to quit playing. Bro, what? I mean, not an option. Falling asleep in a class of 4 is not a good move. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. So this is how you fix that. And if you happen to have my book, it's in there, and I'm going to demonstrate here. But I also have a playlist of all these exercises on my YouTube channel. So if you go to my website, musicstrong.com, click the YouTube channel at the top, look for the playlist, the essential exercises. A bunch of these will be in there. Okay?
It's also on the QR code.
It's on the QR
So
code.
at the end of the last slide here, and then when you hit the QR code, we link you directly to the YouTube playlist.
Now you don't have to keep up with handouts. So for a T, what you're going to do, you're going to hinge from the hips. So my body mappers, we talk about the hips being a hinge joint. It's not
your hip.
right. This is your low back. We are not doing this because this is what I see. Lock your knees. Okay, if I just said bend over, does that look good? No. Right, so keep your knees soft. And if you put your fingers in the joint of your hips and push back, what happens? Your butt goes back. It's really important, okay? So you're gonna draw on your belly button like someone's gonna punch you. You brace for impact, right? That's how you keep your spine stable. Now what I want her to do, I want you to squeeze your shoulder blades together, those things we just did. And if you guys wanna stand up and try this, by all means. What you're gonna do, you should look like Jesus in Brazil when you do this right. The statue, we all know I'm talking about, right? Everybody needs to look like Jesus, right? Okay, so I want you to bring your thumbs to the ceiling. So you're gonna go feet out, everybody hinge from the hips. Squeeze your shoulder blades down, palms out in front of you, and bring your thumbs to the ceiling. Squeeze your shoulder blades together if you have room to do this.
Relax your knees.
And relax your knees. All right, now, when you come back forward, you're still squeezing your shoulder blades. Can you demonstrate what it looks like if you don't squeeze your shoulder blades? You collapse, right? You want constant tension in between the shoulder blades, okay? This is the other thing we see a lot. Come up into a T. If you stand up, you should look like Jesus, right? Okay, this is what we say. This does not look like Jesus. No flying Vs, right? We need Ts. So check your neighbor. When you guys go against, we're just going against gravity is what we're doing. Your arms are actually pretty heavy. So we're gonna come up, squeeze, come back down. So check your neighbor and see if you're a T or a V. And if you stand up, if you stand up, you should look like a T. But the exercise is not standing up. That's just for demonstration purposes, okay? Everybody should feel really nice things happening between the shoulder blades. Yeah. All right. So moving on for sake of time. Those are T's, okay? All right. Hopefully that feels good. If it doesn't feel good, come see me, we'll fix it. I don't know what you were doing. Actually, I can tell you what you're doing. You're doing this, or you're doing this, or you're doing this, or all really. Okay, so shoulder exercises. We just talked about relaxing the tight muscles. Well, now you got to strengthen the weak muscles. These are your external rotators, external, internal, right? So you've seen these before, right? Ideally, you would have, we can use my jacket or your jacket, right? So you want to wad this up to give yourself a little bit of space.
Keep your elbow at your side. Remind you to keep your elbow at your side.
Yeah. All right. So what you're going to do, again, you're going to impact. You brace for everything so your knees don't lock. You cannot brace well and lock your knees at the same time. I mean, try it if you want, but it's not going to go well. So what I want you to do, we're going to provide resistance, and she's showing how you can do it in the door. You're just going to come out to the side. You're squeezing, but here's the thing. You're also squeezing your shoulder at the same time, right? Squeezing down. Right, so go ahead. And that's it. It doesn't matter how far you go. That's not the important thing. You're squeezing here the whole time. You're going to find more than likely the left side is what needs this more than the right side. Because why? We go this way. We need more of that way, okay? So one thing to note, if the band is too heavy, your body is going to find a way. It's like, no way, man, I am going to make this thing happen even if I don't have the range of motion. So you're going to find yourself doing this. Can you demonstrate? Yep. You can't go. So if you see,
my wrist is doing.
if you bend your wrist. So if you find yourself doing that, don't go so far. You should just feel that here. Okay.
Even that far, you're still gonna feel something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Okay, that was
You're
that.
gonna feel it here. The whole point of having this here is so that we're not compensating. We're not trying to lift this way.
Right.
When we're doing that.
Right. Plus, it gives you something to squeeze. So what I like to tell my clients is, okay, have we all been in the situation where you've got groceries? We're making one trip. One trip, right? We're not doing this, but it's raining and you got to hurry up and you don't have any pockets. Where's your phone go? Right? Okay, hold the groceries and get a move on. Okay, so when you do that, you're not going to go anywhere. You're squeezing. You're actually activating some muscles called the serratus anterior, and a whole bunch of other things that tend to be weak too. So,
They're stabilizer muscles.
correct, which helps the shoulder, which helps blah, 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 etc.
Want to talk about how you can do this isometrically?
Oh, yes. We can do this isometrically, but we don't have enough wall space unless you want to press on your neighbor. You guys got to be real friendly for that. Okay, so same thing this way?
Sure.
Yeah, so we're doing this, right? If you want to press on your neighbor, have at it.
Trying to keep each other
It
from
is.
moving. Yeah.
Yes, okay. So it's not a this, but it's a, you're going to squeeze down, press into the wall. You're pressing this way. Think of your arm like a gate. It's swinging out, external, right? So if you're standing next to the wall, push, right? Isometrics are your friend. They're not the best, but if you don't have anything, use that, right? It's better than nothing. It's better than going and being told don't play anymore, right? Okay, so here we go. These are a ton of exercises we don't have time to do, but they're all on my YouTube channel, so go check them out. Shameless plug. So what the ones that we do have are the core. So we've got your dead bugs. Has anybody ever done dead bugs before? Yeah, they are awkward and ugly and effective. So I'm going to show you real quick how to do like lopsided versions of them because they're very, if you don't look like a dying cockroach, you're doing it wrong, right? So that and Payloft presses, which you need a band for, those are what we're going to do. The carries, we're just going to describe them because we don't have big heavy weights, but think like a farmer carrying a bale of hay on one side, right? That's going to challenge your core from one side to the other. And do you think we might have a little bit of rotation on one side when we play? Do we ever do? No. So yeah, that's why it would be helpful. And then strength, we're doing the single arm floor press and alternating shoulder press. You can go to the next. Yes, okay. So real quick, if you're trying to set up your own workout program, I don't have a clue how you guys work out or if you work out. That's not my deal. But when you do, you always want to go from stable to unstable, AKA 2 legs, 1 leg, 2 arms, 1 arm, okay? So we start there, and then you progress, like how to progress a floor press. A floor press, do you want to demonstrate? We don't have any weights, so you don't want to bench press one of these people, do you? Okay, so just lay on your back. So a floor press, it's basically a dumbbell press, but you're doing it from the floor. The floor is very stable, right? So if she's gonna feet flat, press up with both arms, right? So that's your first step, okay? The second step would be alternating arms. So you can go from the floor one at a time, right? So that would be less stable. Or you can start with both arms up and drop one at a time. Now that's even more unstable, but you're still stable on the floor, okay? Third one, add a bridge, okay? And then do one of these, or all of them. Probably not at the same time. Use one arm while you're bridging, right? I just want to make her do this. Okay, and then, so to even make her more unstable, lift a leg. Well, while you're bridging. There you go, and one arm. Yeah, so that's how you can progress your stuff, okay? That's what all this means. So next. Oh, we're doing good on time.
We are.
Sweet. Okay, so we've got dead bugs, and I didn't have a bow. There's the video. Right, so we don't actually, do we play it on silent? Does that work? Perfect, let's play it. So you can see. So what I'm doing here is I've got this band held out to the side. So if you've done a dead bug before, you know you brace. That's some really cheesy music, isn't it? But you can see like you're doing the bridge, dead bug, whatever. So your legs are moving, but the difference is you're holding it to the one side. So one side of your body's gonna be working harder than the other side, right?
The band is attached to the wall if you can't see it real well. So
Yeah.
as she's doing this, it's wanting to pull her toward the wall. So you're trying to resist the rotation while you're also moving your legs.
Right.
Sometimes just having your legs up like that is enough.
It's hard enough.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, you can stop that. I had a broken foot, so it looked really goofy. So that's the side one, but what's the anti-rotation hold? The one I want to show you guys today that you can all do here and not have any equipment is the crossbody one. And it's isometric. So you're just going to push one arm and one leg together. Do you want to demonstrate? Here we go. So she's going to do a basic dead bug. And for anybody who doesn't know, a basic dead bug, you're going to draw in your belly button towards the floor, smash that low back to the ground, and hold it there. She's at 90 degrees. Okay. Oh, yes.
I know, it's hard to see. Sorry.
I know. I don't think they'd like us putting her on the table. Right? The live stream is going to be great for this. Right. So you're going to smash your low back into the ground. All right. Bring your legs up 90 degrees. 90 degrees is really important. If you bring them closer this way, it's a lot easier. Everybody cheats this way. Don't cheat yourself. Right. So you're going to take your right arm and your left leg, press them into each other and hold. Now hold your low back into the ground the whole time. Move these two back and forth. No. Right. Hold, move. There.
Oh God.
Effective presentation.
I'm not gonna lie, but
Right. Okay, so that's how you can do that. And then obviously do that on the other side. So that's how you can do that yourself with no equipment. Thanks for being such a good sport. Next one. It's just playing the video again. What in the world? We don't need to see that. There we go. Okay, this is one of my favorites. Anybody ever done this? Oh, not many, like 2. This is your new favorite, and you're welcome. So you can do it kneeling, which would be stable or unstable. That's a trick question. Sorry, it's both. Because this would be stable. This is less stable on your knees, right? Possibly. I don't know. So we're going to hold. You're going to face them. Can everybody see her? More or less? Okay, so the thing is, you're going to put your feet about hip width apart. Pull your belly button in. Always. We always brace. Hold your arms out totally straight. So lock out your elbows, right? Anytime you lock your elbows, you transfer force to the core and away from here, okay? You bend your elbows, suddenly your arms are working hard. We don't want your arms working at all. We want this working, right? So I'm going to hold here. Relax your shoulders. Thank you. And this hold. So she's resisting rotation. Do we tend to rotate sometimes when we play? Yeah, right?
if I don't brace my core, it starts to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, to make it a little harder, twist to the left a little bit and then back. Yeah, and that's it. Simple, simple, right? And then try it on the other side and see if it's weak.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just curious if you do that way.
Right.
If you do this way, so you're gonna lock out your elbows. There you go. And go, hold, twist. Does one side feel harder than the other?
The other side feels a lot harder.
Right? Okay, that's it. That's a pay-off press or an that's not pay-off. That's an anti-rotation.
So anti-rotation. So pay-off is starting here and then moving out.
Because when you hold, you can get tired. So bring it in to relax and then come back out.
And the
Right.
further away you get from your center of gravity, the
Yeah.
harder it is to resist the rotation.
Right. So that's something that you can do. You can't do that isometrically, but that's that one. So those are the 2 core exercises we think are the best for that. Okay, so we just showed you the floor press, right? And we just already showed you those. So move on. Okay.
These are the carries.
These are the carries because I was not about to pack my 25-pound dumbbells in my suitcase. Southwest was already unhappy with me. So with an overhead carry, so anytime you go overhead, stable or unstable? Unstable, bingo. Okay, would this be more stable? It depends. It's kind of a trick question.
Individual weights, like one in each hand, not necessarily more stable. They're both stability on both sides. But if
Right.
you're holding something together with 2 hands overhead, yeah,
Right.
more stable.
Right. So we've got one side, so you're going to be working harder on the one side. What you can also do is you can do what we call offloaded. So if you have one heavy weight and one less heavy weight, it's still hard to work, but one side's going to be working a little harder. So the way that you do this, you can play the video, I guess, but you're going to hold.
In the QR code link.
Yeah, exactly. So you hold it above your head, but you're not doing this. I want you to straighten your arm. Remember what we said about locking your elbow? It transfers force to your core, right? Sink your shoulder blade down, hold it there, and then you go for a walk. Now it's really unstable. Can you imagine if you didn't sink it down, you'd just be all over the place, right? So that's how you create stability in an unstable joint, right? So that's what an overhead carry looks like. And then you switch sides. What do you want to bet? One arm's going to be harder than the other. So a farmer's carry is the opposite. You're just holding it down here. Here's the thing. When you do a farmer's carry, You don't want to do this. That defeats the purpose, right? It's kind of like the Palloff press where we did this. You're doing vertical instead. So you want to stay upright. Think about gliding along, super stable, right? And then switch sides. Next. I didn't have any pictures, so I inserted videos. Right. No, we did. Okay. So shoulder press. Here's the thing. Not everybody can do a shoulder press. Does anybody ever get pinching in this area when you lift overhead? Don't be shy. It's okay. This happens a lot. So this could, I'm not diagnosing anybody here, but it could be something called shoulder impingement, which is where the subacromial space here gets squished, right? So your clavicle, the head of the humerus, there's a little bit of space in here. If you get pinching right here, these muscles are tight. So that chest stretch is going to be your new best friend, okay? So if that's not you, you can do this. Alternating, so going this way will strengthen the muscles of the shoulders, right? So obviously if we do one side, that's going to be harder than both sides. But alternating, you can go ahead and play that, if it'll do it. Right. So alternating is where you do one at a time, which is going to throw off your balance from side to side. And it makes it a lot harder. So in other words, when you do this, I'm just giving cues that you don't want to, you always want to brace first, right? So that's what alternating means. This would be easier. This is harder, okay? Any questions on that? Beautiful. We can move on. Oh, that's it. Yeah. That's it. Thank you. So if you didn't get the handout, this is the QR code that's got the links to this, and it's got the links to all the other stuff that we showed.
Where can they find you? So we will be at the Performance Health Committee NFA session booth at booth 613
at 3
o'clock, 3 to 4 p.m. in the exhibit hall.
Mm-hmm.
So we can take some questions now, certainly, but if you need to run, you can come find us then. Or these are links where you can contact us too. Please feel free to email us.
Please do. Please do. Yes.
Will you have those bands at the booth?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I will.
If you want to try some of these things and get some individual coaching on it, we can definitely help you with that at the booth as well.
Yep. Does anybody else have questions? Yes, ma'am. Say again? Yes, my book is for sale. I only have 9 copies left. Whoever wants one. Right on my person. I have it right here if you want it. Or you can also download, it's an ebook. You can get it on my website too. Yeah. Thank you guys. All right. In stream. 20. Yes, ma'am.